Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kim Ricketts, and I'm here to introduce and welcome Vicki Robin, who is visiting us as part of the Microsoft Research Visiting Speaker Series. Vicki is here today to discuss your money or your life. For many of us, money is a source of stress and a controlling force in our lives. Creating a positive relationship with money can be reflected in a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment in our work, our families, our communities, and our planet. With this book, Ms. Robin helps us to get to the end result, where we can learn to live at the peak of the fulfillment curve, always having plenty, but never burdened by excess. Vicki has served on the President's Council on Sustainable Development and helped launch many sustainability initiatives, including the New Roadmap Foundation, the Simplicity Forum, the Turning Tide Coalition, Sustainable Seattle, and the Center for a New American Dream. So please join me in welcoming Vicki Robin to Microsoft to discuss your money or your life.
Hello out there in the back row. This is a sort of the public speaker's nightmare, is that you're all scattered all over the place. The second nightmare, oh, God, you closed your computers. Thank you. Let's just would somebody time it, and see how long we can go before everybody's opened their computers again? It'll be a test of how interesting I am. So thank you very much for having me here today. How many people here know the book, Your Money or Your Life? Okay, so lots of you know, right? Never heard of it, don't know what it is? Who not? Okay, great. Okay. Well, it's interesting. The book came out in 1992, the original version, and I just recently, last year, updated and revised it for the 21st century because a lot of the stuff in the book is the program. It's a 9-step program in Your Money or Your Life. That is classic, good money management tools. My co-author, Joe Dominguez, who died 12 years ago, said, Ben Franklin would be rolling over in his grave now that we have to teach this stuff because it's so obvious. But we have had so many years of teaching ourselves to be over-consumers, teaching ourselves that frugality is deprivation rather than that's proper money management. We have so many years of the consumer culture that we have to teach this stuff again. So, if you think that, God, everybody knows this, you're right. Everybody does know it. But somehow or another, I have to educate the few of you in the room who don't. So the book came out in 1992, and in the mid-90s, I could come in a room like this. How many people have read Your Money or Your Life or think you have? And all the hands go up. So it's really fun that this is brand new to people. That sort of justifies my having invested the life energy in updating the book. So I want to give a brief description of what's in Your Money or Your Life, some of the background of it, and then I want to open this up for question and answer because I understand that you guys love question and answer. And you're probably going to nail me with questions I can't answer, and so that's going to be fun. So Your Money or Your Life presents a 9-step program, step-by-step program for personal financial transformation that's guided by feedback mechanisms that are rooted both in self-interest and higher values. That's my outline. I just gave you my outline, then we're going to unpack it. It presents a 9-step program. And the steps are so simple and so pragmatic. For example, step 1 is do a balance sheet. Boring. Isn't this boring? Is this the sign for boring? Boring, that one. Boring. Yeah, so do a balance sheet. But the rationale behind doing the balance sheet becomes so interesting to you that you actually want to do it. Then step 2 is keep track of every penny that comes into and goes out of your life. Now, since you're here at Microsoft, maybe that's sort of a no-brainer for you. But, us non-engineering types, that's sort of like a challenge. But and because when you understand what Your Money or Your Life is about, keeping track of every penny becomes an act of self-preservation, not an act of self-deprivation. Step 3 is very simple. You tally up at the end of each month the categories. How much you spent in spending categories. It sort of looks like budget, but it's not really a budget at all. So I'm just giving you an example that it's a step-by-step, very pragmatic program. It's very grounded. But it's a whole system program. It's for personal financial transformation. Now it's not for personal financial success. It's not for making a lot of money, which in this economic climate might be more difficult than it used to be. It's not to sort of best your neighbors. It's not just to manage the transactions, the daily financial transactions in a better way. It's for personal financial transformation. It's asking, what is money really? Rather than how can I make more of it? So, like, what is money? Anybody?
Opportunity.
Money's opportunity.
For me, money's security so that I can spend time with my family.
Exactly. Money's security.
Congealed energy.
It's congealed energy. Money is congealed energy. Any other guesses?
It's a means to an end.
Exactly. Yeah. So we ask the question, what is money? And many of these definitions, like you were opportunity, right? Somebody said opportunity. Right. Back there, opportunity. Yes, in some ways money can open up opportunities, but are there opportunities in life apart from money? Yeah? Okay, so money can't be opportunity. It might be opportunity, but it also might be a stumbling block to opportunities. I have a big opportunity. It's like have a job. I can go to France and have this job, and it'd be great. Huge opportunity. But you know what? I'm scared. I have a little pile of money here, and I don't want to risk it. So money could be opposite to opportunity. Money is security. Yeah, but not always. Are there other ways to have security in life other than money? Duh. Yeah, exactly. So money can be a means towards security, but that's not a universal definition of money. Money is congealed energy? Yes. Yeah, there's other forms of energy, of course, and I'm going to get to this energy, and we had another means of exchange. Was that what you were talking about?
Means to an end.
It's a means to an end. It's a means of exchange. But sometimes, like, what would the end be?
It allows me to get what I want out of life, but in the end, money itself doesn't have much value to me.
Right. So to the degree that it allows you to get what you want. Well, we're getting closer to what we say money is in your money or your life.
I would say tool.
It's a tool, right? Is that tool? I want to learn sign language while we're going. Yeah. So money is a tool. It's a means to an end. And so what we say in your money or your life is yes. Money is these daily transactions. It's a means to an end. Yes, money has emotional value. It brings you security or opportunity. Money also is, in the cultural context, money is lives in an environment, a cultural environment, of the notion of progress. God, is there anything wrong with the notion of progress? Progress is our most important product. However, you're all too young to remember that, aren't you? Better living through chemistry, progress is our most important product. Yeah, so we live inside of this idea of progress, of every year you have to be earning more, advancing. You have to be increasing your stock of things. If you have, one nice outfit, boy, next year you better have two. And if you have two, you better have three. If you have a nice sofa, you better have a nicer sofa. We live inside this idea of more is better. That's a concept we have about money, which is not a universally true concept. There are many cultures that don't value that. There's many cultures that don't value progress as a meme, as an idea. So money also in our culture represents this more is better, growth is good, money's the way we keep score. That idea of what's your number? Like the number that, if I had this, I'd be financially independent, I'd be cool, I'd have everything I want and need in life. But have you ever noticed that when somebody gets their number, it's not enough? And they have to get double the number? So it's this whole idea of progress. So what we say in your money, your life, when we ask this question, what is money? We say money really to you. Reality testing, not out in the economy, not, what Alan Greenspan or Tim Geithner or any of these people say money is. But money to you is the hours of your life that you invest to put it in your wallet. And so it becomes a personal definition. It's like you say, congealed energy. It is your life energy. And if you transform something that seems limitless, like I can always get more money, into something that is limited, your life, I'm sorry, in 100 years we're all dead. 50 maybe. We don't know. We might have 75 years here. We have a limited life. And everything you value has to fit inside that life. And you're going to spend a third of it sleeping, so it really gets desperate. And another third, you're going to be on the job doing somebody else's agenda, not your own. Of course, all of you here at Microsoft, if they stopped paying you, you'd still come to work because you love it so much, right? Yes. So, a third of it, you're going to be, so a third of your life, if you have 75 years, 25 years, that's all you have. To mate, marry, have kids, travel the world, develop a sincere relationship with the divine, find out who you really are, ask the big questions in life. That's all you have for it. So, when you think of money as your life energy, it transforms the way you interact with it. Then it's not like, it's Friday night, let's go blow some dough, let's go to let's party, Then you think, well, wait a second. If I go and party, let's say I'm making $20 an hour. I don't know whether that's on target for you guys, and when you think about it, really, you're not making $20 an hour because a third of that goes to taxes anyway, and then another third of it goes to all the job-related expenses. So maybe you're making $7 an hour. So, hey, let's go down, throw down some beers, So it's like, suddenly that's 3 hours of my work week that I just tossed out on Friday night. So it transforms the way you interact with money. You start to think, those things I buy, boy, they better add value to my life. They better really be worth it. Or you have a big example, like, I have a car, it runs, it's a great car, but you know what? I want an SUV. But when you start to think of money as life energy, and you look at that SUV, and you look at the sticker, and you're automatically, once you're doing this program, you're automatically translating dollars into hours. And you look at that, and you think, that's 3.5 years of my life. Is it going to bring me 3.5 years of happiness? Am I going to go work at Microsoft for 3.5 years, just like every day? It's like, wow, this is part of my car. I'm so glad to be working for my car. So that's what I'm saying. It's for personal financial transformation. Because in the more is better, growth is good, progress mentality, doesn't matter. You get an SUV this year, in 3 years you get another one, and then you get a Hummer. Or, it's like you're always seeking and seeking more and more and more. But when you have this idea of money as my life energy and life is limited, then you become discerning. Then you have a values-based relationship with money rather than a more is better relationship with money. And you see, more is better is a dead-end concept. It seems like it's a promise of ever, it's sort of a cornucopia promise. I can always have more. But if you have the concept of more is better, let me show you. So I have everything I want and need. Here I am. I have everything I want and need. But I think more is better. So I start to feel restless, and I start to look around. More would be better. Oh, God, there's more. That's going to be better. This is a bigger house. This is the more. And so I go over here, and I get the more that's supposed to be better. And I feel a moment of satisfaction because I satisfied that idea that I got the more I thought was going to be better. Yay. But I still think more is better. So I can't be satisfied. I even got the more that was supposed to be better, and I'm not satisfied. So I started looking around. What else? What else? What else? Well, it's not the house, maybe the car. Okay, fine. Here we go. There's the car. That's more. It's going to be better. So here I go, and I get the more that's supposed to be better, and I have a moment of satisfaction and peace. And then this little thing kicks in my head that says more is better. And so I go searching for the more that must be better. And it drives you into debt, overwork, illness, that endless seeking, that restless feeling that surrounds us in our culture. That's what drives you into this pattern of overconsumption, this pattern of too muchness. And the transformation that happens when you're engaged in your money, your life, is you start to define how much is enough for you. You know? Rather than more is better, you start to define what's the pile of stuff that's going to make my life wonderful with not a scrap of excess. Nothing too much. No extra commitments, no extra stuff, no stuff in the garage, no stuff in the attic, no stuff in the storage. You know, there are people who buy stuff on eBay and have it delivered directly to their storage lockers. You know, it doesn't even pass through their lives. You know, so the point is to define your enough point. The amount of money and stuff that contributes to your life with nothing in excess. And when you start to pay attention to money and stuff in that way, most people who do the program, this step-by-step program in Your Money, Your Life, after 6 months, their expenses have gone down by 20 to 25% across the board. People are low income, not super low income. I don't mean poverty. I'm not talking about poverty. I'm talking about most people in this culture find that there's 20 to 25% of the stuff that they buy on a regular basis or they buy annually or whatever that they don't really need. Like one couple discovered that they were spending a lot of money insuring, you know, family jewels. You can't replace those if they're stolen. They're family jewels. They thought, well, okay. They stopped paying insurance. I had a friend who had an accident, and the insurance company determined that, you know, the value of her car was such that they just totaled the car. The car was fine, but they totaled the car. Well, she was still getting comprehensive and collision insurance on her car because, well, that's the insurance bill. You know, so, I mean, it's already a totaled car. What are you going to get comprehensive and collision insurance on a totaled car? So you just start to discover these spending loopholes that are blaringly clear to you once you start to think about money as your life energy and ask yourself, what's my enough point, rather than how can I have more? So it's a transformational program that's based on feedback mechanisms that are rooted both in self-interest, like I'm not going to waste my life energy on stuff that doesn't make me happy, and higher values, which is, what are my goals? What are my dreams? You know, when I was 7 years old, did I dream of being in this room at Microsoft? You know, what is this job here at Microsoft? What is this? How is this part of something larger in my life, my sense of myself? You know, we're not trained to think about this. You know, we're trained to think about getting a job, getting money, getting a house, getting a car, getting a wife or husband, getting kids, getting a dog, getting a divorce, getting rid of the house, getting... I mean, that's our training, is to set our life goals in terms of material things, which includes shopping for real human beings, you know. Get online, you know, eBay for relationships, Match.com. So basically, the question, you start to think about, well, what is it I really want? What makes me really happy? And when you start to address your purchases, like, you know, you're going in and you're just about to get the SUV. The SUV is sort of on my mind, not because I have one. I have a Honda Insight, by the way. I have the highest gas mileage car on the road. Anyway, see, that's my bragging right. You're going in, you're going to get the SUV. And, you know, you look at that and you transform the sticker price into 3.5 years of my life. And then you just ask yourself the question, like, is that going to make me happy in proportion to the amount of my life I'm going to invest in getting it? And if it is, then get it. The point is not to not get the car. The point is to be sure that the car or the dress or the dog or whatever it is that's your next thing is going to make you happy in proportion to your investment in it. And I don't mean just like that little thrill that you get at the point of purchase. You know, like the things on the shelf, and you see it, and I like it, and okay, I get it, and I put in my cart, and take my card, and I take out my credit card, and I get in the bag, and like, whoa, it's mine. It was theirs, and now it's mine. Woo, life is good. But by the time you get to your car and put it in the trunk, close the car, drive home, use it for a couple of weeks, it's just disappeared into your sort of pile of stuff, you see. So I'm not talking about that little thrill you get in shopping. I'm talking about long-term happiness. See, this is not, I'm all for sensuality. I'm all for pleasure. I'm all for enjoyment. I'm all for happiness. So what I want is for people to be happy with their stuff, not to not have it. To have the stuff that really makes you happy. But when you start to examine it, you really, in terms of the limited energy, life energy, then you make different choices. And the second question is this in alignment with my values, my dreams, my goals? If the SUV is like, you're going to pull a trailer and you've saved up enough money and you're taking the whole family, your kids are 7, 9, and 11, by the time the 11-year-old is 12, you've lost them to teenagerdom. So you're going to put everybody in the car in a camper, with a trailer, and you're going to go around the country. That's going to be your great family bonding adventure. Everybody's going to remember it for the rest of their lives. Great car, it's going to take you where you want to go. So you have to ask yourself, what are my dreams, and is this contributing? And if you approach money in this way, you start to find a wholeness of life, a sense of mastery in life. It's not like whenever I get ends to meet, somebody moves the other end. I just, I can't seem to manage this thing that always is getting out of control. And as soon as I get my job thing going, my wife wants a divorce. And as soon as I get the divorce, the dog, And so it starts to bring the whole thing together. So you have a sense of integrity, wholeness, completeness, peace of mind. And so that's the goal of this very pragmatic program, this 9-step program in Your Money and Your Life. So I hope I gave you a sense of enough things to object to so that we can have an interesting conversation. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to get a few questions from you. I don't want to just answer one at a time because I don't want to sort of favor the eager beavers to go, oh, I got the question, and then I spend the whole time on them. So let's just give me some stuff that's on your minds, questions you might have about what I'm saying. Yeah? Yeah.
You discovered a better word than happy to describe what people are actually after? Because when I hear the word happy, I think like hungry. Something that comes and goes. And
So enduring happiness versus transitory happiness.
Yeah, I just wonder if there is another way to talk about what
that's a great question.
Want is.
Yeah, it's a great question. Anything else? Yes?
We talked about ownership and how we shouldn't seek to own things or like gain possessions, but for me, like a lot of happiness is in ownership and security. And I guess it's just sort of like this big, I don't know, it's just sort of like why can't people own their own homes? Why do banks own all of our homes?
That's a different question.
I know it's related to that in that the reason that we pursue all these things is because we want security. Like I want my house because I want to own it.
Right.
I don't want someone else to own my house.
Got it. Okay. So the question of ownership. And
what is ownership and like how is it bad or good and
right.
I mean,
okay.
It's not bad to be wanting to have a house and be married, right? If that's what makes.
Oh no! I just bought a house, so yeah.
You mentioned about balance sheet. So how to prepare? You mentioned about the balance sheet.
The balance sheet, yes.
And what to put in liability side.
Okay. Right. Right. The house. I'm sorry. The balance sheet. Okay, yes.
So you went through, I heard 3 of your 9 steps. Would you change anything, now that my 401k is worth 201k?
Would I change anything? Yeah, right. Okay. Right. And so you're asking, would I change anything in the program? But also, I think the question you're asking is, how do I manage my money in this moment in time. This is, yes, exactly. Yeah, any other questions yes?
I have the topic is obligation. I just did an audit of my insurance and my communications expenses, and I discovered that I was overpaying, twice what I really had to pay. And I'm in school and we're studying the endowment effect of, the things that you have are theoretically worth more than what you might give up to get something else. And so I just restructured everything. I saved, 50%, and I get the same benefit.
Exactly.
But there was some sort of latent sense of obligation to the companies I was transacting with.
Oh, right. Obligation to the companies. Right. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Right. Okay, well, was there one more out there? Yes.
I guess just to dovetail to the question about the 201k.
Okay, I like that.
I'm wondering if step 9 has changed at all with the
Right.
fact that interest rates are as low as they are.
Yeah, the step 9 question. Okay, great. These are great questions. I can't stand being back here behind the podium, so I'm going to sort of bring it with me. And I'm sorry, I'm not as visible to you, but I like being out and about. And I just want to congratulate you. I feel so honored that this is not dissing anybody, but a lot of you do not have your computers open yet. So we're having a good time. This is my measure of how we're having a good time. Unless you're taking notes. Of course you're taking notes. This is, yeah. Okay. And you're going to send them to everybody, right? Right, yeah. I had a friend who was an author, and, people were signing books, and somebody brought the original version of his book, for him to sign, and he thought, oh, God, this is an old copy. They've had it for a long time. And so he decided, I'm just going to flip through, see, what they've underlined, what they liked. And it's like, the margin was like, no, BS. Right? So any commentary in your notes, no. This is all over the map. I'm going to just start with your question about ownership and what's wrong with ownership and is it good or is it bad? And really it's neither good nor bad. It's if owning that house is totally worth it to you. It gives you a feeling of security. It gives you a feeling of satisfaction. It gives your whole family a feeling of security. It's aligned with your sense that I want to create a secure life for myself and my family. I want to be part of the community. Man, that house is totally worth it. Own it. Own it. But, so people come up to me a lot of times and say, are you saying I shouldn't buy my fill in the blank? My CDs, my lattes, my, fancy suits. Are you saying I should? I said, no. I just like any consumption that actually adds to the quality of your life. That's great. All I'm asking, it's just I'm asking you to not buy the things that don't contribute to your quality of life. It's like, buy what you want. Don't buy what you don't want. It's like, it's like, duh. So, but what it requires is for you to become self-aware of what really matters to me and not judgmental. For some people, adventure is what matters. For some people, security is what matters. I happen to be one of the adventure people. For me, I buy my freedom with my frugality every day. The less I spend, the further my money goes. The more adventure I can have. I figured out frugality early in my life because I sort of parlayed money that was supposed to last for 6 months in Europe into a year and a half. I just spent less every day. Had more adventures. Riding in a third-class train, you have a lot more adventures than riding in a first-class train. Sleeping in nunneries, on straw with a bottle of hot water, bigger adventure than a 5-star hotel, to me. So, everybody has a different set of values, and that's the thing, is that, this whole idea of budgeting and what you should do in your financial planner, we sort of take our helpless, sorry little asses to some professional, excuse the expression, oh God, it's on television, and to some professionals say, fix me. I'm helpless, I'm clueless, I don't know anything, you know. But this is saying, no, just like, it's not a big deal. It's the basic work of being a human. It's like, who am I? What matters to me? And how can I invest my precious life energy in what matters most? So I hope that's helpful. It's not like it's right or wrong. It's just, you know, making a choice and being able to say in the presence, you who values security in your house, being in my presence who values adventure, being able to say, I like my security, you like your adventure. So what? You know? It's just perfect. Everything's perfect. So, so this thing about the program and the 201k, you know, Joe Dominguez and I, we taught this material from 1980 onward. And at the end of the 80s, I mean, primarily we taught it to people because we felt like it wasn't the fountain of youth, but we sort of like unlocked some secret about money. We'd sort of woken up from the whole thrall of the consumer culture and had the freedom to design our lives the way we wanted to. And people were asking us, how did you do that? So we started to teach it. With no objective really other than to help people. Because since we defined our enough point and we were young and we were arrogant, we were going to like, well, we don't need any more, we have enough. So we gave away all the money that we took in from the seminars. So really it was just to help people. And then in the late 80s, I realized I went to a conference where I had my consciousness raised about the global environmental crisis, that we were on a collision course. Economic expansion and limited resources on the planet. At that point, in '89, we were already in a condition of overshoot. We were spending more of the Earth's resources on an annual basis than could be regenerated. We were going into ecological debt already. That started in 1986. In 1986, we used up everything by December 31st at 2 minutes to midnight. Now we use up everything, our allotment for the year. We spent our allowance by October 23rd, I think it is, September 23rd. Anyway, we're using a quarter more of resources on an annual basis than the Earth has. I mean, if we were, right now we need another quarter planet someplace. You know, if everybody in the world lived the way we do in the United States, we'd need 5 planets. We just don't have them. You know, we're out of planets. This is it. So at that point, I became very passionate about communicating about this because of the environmental crisis. And then my co-author, Joe Dominguez, had worked on Wall Street for 10 years. He was very savvy about money. He made his money from salary. He didn't make it from investing. But he was one of the early creators of the field of technical analysis back when computers were a city block in the basement of, you know, a building in New York City, and you had to book time. So he was very smart about money, and he really was so clear that these successive financial bubbles could only lead to this moment in time. There's no other thing, and these sort of derivative financial instruments were toxic. And he died 12 years ago thinking that the crash was going to happen. He was sort of a bear. He kept, like, every day that the market would go down, he says, see, I told you so, and it would go up, and he said, it's just an illusion, just an illusion. So this book was designed for now. It was actually designed so that people would arrive at this moment out of debt, savings in the bank, you know, a balanced material existence. So right now, the program in this book, it makes even more sense. It makes even more sense. Because number one, you may have designed your life around a certain financial nut, like my life costs $47,000 a year. That's it. Cannot spend a penny less. As a matter of fact, I'm spending $50,000 a year, which is the normal condition in the United States. So, but then you start to do the program, and you start to like track and evaluate, the money that you're spending, and you realize you start to lose that 20%. Not because you should. We're cutting back, honey. Cannot have any fun anymore. Not because you should, but because it starts to fall away. Your assumptions start to change. So life goes down to $40,000 a year, not 50. That's 20%. So it actually is very helpful for the necessity right now of living within your means. Back 20 years ago, when we started writing the book, it seemed like a nice little sort of marginal lifestyle. Well, it was voluntary simplicity. Well, if you want that, fine, but I'm going to go and get a Lexus. So, but now it's really helpful. And also the other thing is that, once you realize, somebody asked about the balance sheet, and what we have you do in the first step of the program, which is so daunting to people that I usually recommend that they start in the second step. But the first step is you tally your lifetime earnings. How much money have you brought in your life? If you want to save money or do something different about it, would be good to know how much you brought in. And fortunately, the IRS has been keeping track of what you've reported. So you get your statement of lifetime earnings from the IRS. And then, whatever it is, you've been working for 27 years in the workplace, and you thought, oh, dumb dead-end job, another dumb dead-end job. But you look at this thing and you realize you made $2 million in your life. So then you tally up, what do you owe? All of your debt. Even what you owe in the house, what you owe in the car, what you owe in your student loans, and all your debt. What do you owe? So what you own, what you brought in, what you owe. Now the third thing you do is you look at, what do I own? And you start to go through your possessions and you assign a dollar value. If I put my whole life on eBay, what could I get for it? Not like every spoon, but this, your mom's silver set that you never use, or whatever it is. You just go through your house and you assign values to everything that you own. That's what's left. I brought in $2 million. I owe $1,500,000. And so I have, $500,000. And then you say, and here's my pile of stuff, and it's worth X. And you have this feeling of like, I brought in $2 million, and what I have left, if I valued it, is $50,000, because that's all I paid on my house, you see. And you go like, $2 million, 50 grand left. It's like, where did it go? So you do that calculation, and you can just back of the envelope it first, You can get as precise as you want. You do that calculation. Your motivation to save the next $2 million is really high. Not fritter it away, not have it disappear into, I don't know where it went. Where'd it go? I don't know, I didn't see that many movies. What happened to it, So basically, I think that the program In Your Money, Your Life is even more helpful now than it was. It would have been helpful to do it in the past because, I'm living this way. This recession, it sounds like I'm bragging, but it's not a problem for me because I don't have debt. I've saved money. I save money every year. And so when having an opportunity to buy a house in Langley, Washington, the little seaside village on Whidbey Island of Langley, Washington, a view house, looking over the water, and Mount Baker, 2,000 square feet. It was a repo. And I had enough money for half of it, and it turned out a friend of mine had enough money for the other half. So in this climate, I was able to acquire a house, which is great. A lot of people who've been savers, young families, they're being able to get into, there are such things as starter homes now. People are being able to get into homes if they've been a saver. So it's really a good, fat times, any animal knows. In fat times, You go and you get the acorns and you store them, because winter is going to come and you're going to need those acorns. Throughout human history, in fat times we store so that we have something in lean times. Somehow or another we went crazy in the last 50 years. And we were convinced that there were no lean times coming, that the market would always go up, that we would always advance. Progress. So we are completely unprepared as a people for this moment in time. There's a lot of worse news under the surface that I'm not even going to go into, but so that's on the balance sheet and that's on the 201k. And then in this obligation to companies, that's a really interesting thing. I mean, in a way we feel an obligation to the people. You know, there is a sort of, you know, in your town, if somebody has the grocery store, you do worry about that person because they're your neighbor. So we are sort of programmed as humans to care about other humans. And in 1867 or something, corporations were given the rights of personhood in this society, so they became humans to us. So, you know, our loyalty to Coca-Cola. So that's sort of a natural human function. But we're also taught, I mean, we've been taught by have you heard any of our presidents tell us that in crisis times we should go out and buy something, anything? Because 75% of the American economy is consumer spending. And if you didn't go out and spend your money, which you don't have, so if you didn't go out and acquire more debt, you're unpatriotic. You know? That's how we're going to solve things, because, geez, you know, I mean, you wouldn't want to feel like the whole economy crashed because you wouldn't buy a new tie. But that's what we've been given. You know, we've been trained to have a certain loyalty to the economy. We've got to keep the economy going, because we've all bought into it. If the economy isn't going, then we lose our jobs. But if you're a saver, if you've done the programming your money, your life, that's not quite, that might be an opportunity, not a disaster. So we've been taught to have a loyalty to the economy because we feel like we don't live inside nature, we don't live inside society, we live inside an economy that requires us to spend more than we earn on an annual basis. And I say, you know, it's a sow with poison milk, but we're little piglets and it's the only sow around. So we'll suckle. And my example I give is, you know, let's say, if your neighbor is a heart surgeon, would you eat a high-fat diet consistently year in, year out to make sure that your neighbor had work? Well, why should you have the same loyalty to the economy? You know, let those insurance agents get a good day job, you know? Really, I think we need to question our loyalty to the economy. Doesn't mean we don't participate, doesn't mean it isn't important. It just means, where are our loyalties? And I think our loyalties need to be into our values, our dreams, and our well-being, our health, our families. That's where human, you know, to the natural world. So this question about happiness, is there a better word for happiness? Let's do some brainstorm. What would be a word that you would use to describe that state of, I call it Goldilocks state, you know, not too much, not too little, just right. Contentment. So contentment. Would that do it for you? Contentment. Yeah. Contentment is a balanced word. It's not, you know, thrilled and, you know, top of my game, and it's contented. Yeah. I could go for that. Contentment. Although there's the state of Bhutan in India, when the king ascended to the throne there, and he was a young man. Yes?
Bhutan is not a state, it's a different country. Bhutan is a different country.
Yes, it's a country.
It's a state of India. It's a neighboring.
No, I know, it's a country.
Yeah, it's a different country than India.
Yeah, no, I do know that.
You said state.
Yeah, I know I said state, but isn't can't you use?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think linguistically you can use the word state to refer to a country, but I do know it's a country. Thank you. Yeah, I do know it's a country, and well, so if you know about Bhutan, maybe you can correct me on this. But basically, he said, we're going to focus not on gross national product, but gross national happiness. It's a Buddhist country, and so and Buddhists understand that the aim of existence is happiness, not as in thrill, but as in contentment. And happiness, they have, a very sophisticated understanding of how one achieves happiness. So they said the bottom line for this country cannot be growth per se, material growth. It's going to be happiness. And so they have organized, and it's not an obvious way how to organize an economy for a nation around happiness. But they've been in that study. They're having conferences. They're bringing in some of the best minds on the planet to see how do you organize an economy around happiness. So I think there's, the country of the United States that's organized around material growth. Country of Bhutan, organized around happiness. Country, So, some countries organize themselves around happiness, contentment, and some around material growth. So happiness is a term that works for me because the Dalai Lama uses it. So I think if he uses it, I can use it. But contentment's good. I've almost done everything except for this question around step 9. Well, I'll get to it. And so what's your question?
I was just going to add to what you said by saying that happiness is also the frame of mind you're in terms of if you're constantly comparing yourself to the Joneses, and we've heard that a billion times, then you're never going to find happiness, and it becomes perpetual, you're seeking it all the time. But if you remove yourself from that frame of mind and actually think about your life as it is and what's going to drive you and what's going to fulfill your life, then it's less perpetual and more now.
There's also studies of human happiness, and one of the main findings is again and again is that happiness is very related to fairness. That if you feel that your lot in life is fair in comparison to your people like you, be they your neighbors or the people in your work, your profession. And there might be some of your neighbors who, are well trained and they have, higher income, but you think that's fair because they went on and got PhDs, so they have higher income. If you think your lot in life is fair, you'll be happy. It's when you think it's not fair. That's what the keeping up with the Joneses is, like suddenly the Joneses get a Lexus and, your Chevy, which was great yesterday, looks really sort of tacky today because it's a comparison value. And there's a survival value in this. But our species is a social species. And so we have this thing of comparing ourselves, matching the people around us, because it creates safety for us and it creates a survival value. So it's really, quite ingrained. So that's one of the problems with, the restructuring around Reaganomics of the tax system that has permitted this ginormous wealth gap, greater than almost any country except for the mafia-controlled Russia, or the communist state. So basically, it's this ginormous wealth gap where some people who are no smarter than you are making out like bandits, which Madoff, I think, is a good example. He really actually did make out like a bandit. That these people are getting filthy rich while you're, grubbing along, you can't get ahead. And that produces dissatisfaction, lack of contentment with your lot in life, even if you could pull back and really be internally focused and say, you know what, it's enough. But in this environment, it's very hard to maintain that experience of contentment. So, probably generated a lot of other ideas.
Well, I was wondering what you can share with us about your insight into defining or clarifying values and goals. Seeing as really understanding your values and goals is part of what this money or your life process is about achieving.
Yeah, okay, so I'll collect another set of questions. Is there something else that's alive out there? Yes?
Thinking about purchasing, I often make a distinction between wants and needs.
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering if you have a similar construct, or if you make, because I think before it seems like you're talking about, if you wanted it, if it makes you happy, then it's a good thing to get, taking into account like its life value. I'm just wondering if you
differentiate between wants and needs. Okay, let me. Okay, let's get a third one. I have a aging brain and I can't continue. I have to take notes here. Wants and needs, and then the other thing about values. These are great questions. I have one other person here.
So far, what you've talked about sounds very related to the individual and what we can do, in our own lives. And I'm wondering if you, in the book, have some accounting for how to deal with relationships, because I would assume that this gets complicated when you are interacting with people in your family.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so relationships. I say one more.
Yeah, just you mentioned comparison and fairness. I mean, how correlated to that do you think is competition? When you compare yourself to the Joneses, are you competing with the Joneses, or are you feeling, oh, how unfair, I don't have that?
Well, I think, okay, so let's go backwards. This fairness question of like, when you compare yourself to the Joneses, are you competing or comparing? And I think when you're in a fair society, you're probably comparing. You might be inspired. I mean, envy might be, it may not be, it may function, have a positive function of like, oh, well, if I worked a little harder, maybe I could get a Lexus. So it might be an inspiration to you to do something different in your life when you notice that somebody else has something that you want. But if it becomes really unfair, that's when it drives competition. And that becomes a war of all against all. I can't, don't look back, something, but it might be gaining on you. That old, who is it? Who's that guy? Sorry, aging brain. Thank you. Satchel Paige. Okay, so let's go about values clarification. And also, let's combine it with the needs and wants. Yes, I think there's a distinction between needs and wants. And in our society, all wants instantly become needs. I want it because I need it. I want the SUV, I need it. I gotta have it. So being able to differentiate, and that's why we say in proportion to the amount of your life energy you're going to invest in getting it. It's not just I want it, I'm going to get it. It's like, is it worth that chunk of your life? Do you want it that much? And we also distinguish between thrill and contentment. Thrill is the instant of purchase, and contentment would be lasting satisfaction with the thing that you bought. If you start to use those parameters, it starts to shape your consumption so that I want it is not simply an endless. Of course, you want a lot of stuff. I mean, there was a mother who told me the story once about, how kids are, I want it, Mommy, I want it. So she took her kid around the store, and she said, just tell me what you want. And he goes, oh, Mommy, I want that. And she said, what else do you want? And he said, oh, I want that. And what else? I want that. And so they go around for a while, and then she says, okay, honey, let's go. And it's like, but I want those things. Yeah, and that's great. The hedonic Dionysian feeling inside of you of like desire. I think desire is great. I know the Buddhists warn against it, but I think, it's that life energy. It's that sort of base ground feeling of being, I sort of like body-based inspiration in balance with the higher values. So trying to teach your kid that wanting isn't bad. It wasn't like, no, you can't have that. But then you have to take a look at everything you want and see what's really worth having. And taking care of and fixing and, dusting, cleaning, repairing, using, reading the manual for, not being able to figure it out, paying somebody to help you figure out your new computer. All of that, taking all that in consideration. Do you still want it? So that would be the wants and needs. In terms of values clarification, I mean, it's a whole field of, because we don't have, I mean, we're not designed really, our society, so much around this question of what really is important in the larger scheme of things. So what I found is that actually going through these processes on a daily basis of going like, chair, I want it. Well, why do I want it? What does that mean to me? Well, it means, what does it mean to me? It means that the Joneses have that chair and I want the chair. What does it mean to me? It means comfort. What does it mean to me? It means that it's in front of me and I just want it. You know, so you start to, as you dialogue with with the things that you want to buy, asking what's behind it? Why do I care about that? What's driving me? What's inspiring me? Where do I think it's going to take me? Why is that important to me? Then, is it a status thing? Is it a comfort thing? Is it a, is it a security thing? Is it, what is that about for me? And is that a value that I want to invest myself in? So the process of buying things, the daily process of consumption, actually becomes a values clarification process. And there is a point in the program in Your Money, Your Life where you actually do ask these questions about your purchases. And a lot of people say, they say, well, it was the 20 hours of my life that I spent last month on shoes, Is it in alignment with my goals and dreams and values? Geez, I don't know. I don't even know what my values are. I don't know what my goals are. I don't know what my dreams are. It's like I forgot, they didn't teach me in school, and if they did, I forgot. Somehow or another, I'm in the middle of my life, and those things didn't seem pertinent, so I just let them go. So it's a way to say, what is all this activity around shoes about in my life? What does that mean to me? So it actually, I think, having this kind of relationship with the things that you buy actually helps you get back in touch with things. If you ask month in, month out those questions, pretty soon you'll start to think, well, I always wanted to be a poet, frankly, and now I'm writing manuals for Microsoft. Okay, well, could the writing of manuals, so the money I get from writing the manuals, that will buy me, a summer institute, a poetry institute in the Adirondacks, good purchase, so you start to redirect your attention towards what matters most. And for me, I trust that something inside of human beings that orients them around their purpose, what I would call their destiny, although that may be a word that many of you don't like. But I do think that there's something within all of us, and I can't explain what it is, that's sort of a homing device, sort of getting hotter, getting colder. We do have something that we're here for. And we can feel it. And some things, yeah, that's it. No, that's not it. And so, being in that kind of relationship with money and stuff helps you refine, helps you get in touch with that homing device inside you that's directing your life towards something. Actually, Your Money, Your Life is simply an induced midlife crisis. It's like, have it early and often, So really, I'm sorry. It's because, when you get in the middle of your life, when you get around your 50s, you start to ask, okay, now, am I doing what I really came here to do, what I want to do, what's mine to do? If I only have a limited period of time left in my life, what do I want to invest myself in? Because there's a lot of, sort of wafting about and experimentation you can do when you're younger because you think you're immortal. And then at some point, you start to realize, ooh, there's this conveyor belt I'm on. It's called life, and I'm just going along, and it's really interesting, and I'm doing stuff, and I'm getting married, and blah, blah. And then you see there's an edge over there. And, there's some new people coming on the conveyor belt. They're younger people, and you're just going off the edge. So this actually gives you an opportunity to take a look at those issues. And then about relationships. There's something perverse about relationships, which is you'll get together with somebody who has a different money style than you, and then you get to grow. So, I mean, some people, in terms of Your Money, Your Life, if both people in a couple are committed to doing this process as part of their relationship, and then every month they'll get together and they'll look at their expenses and their life energy and what they're, and they'll go they'll be able to align. At least you'll have good conversations about the person you thought you knew and you don't. Or sometimes people will realize that they have really different money styles. They always have, they always will. There's a spendthrift and a tightwad. I mean, that's how it is. And so, rather than going why did you buy that? Don't control me. You know, why rather than do that, each person gets an allowance. You know, and you just don't question what the other person does with their allowance. Or sometimes couples separate their money. You know, I mean, it's very antiquated. You know, the marriage contract is all about, it was originally about chattel, household goods. You know, you bought a maid. You know, so there's financial arrangements that are sort of antiquated that come into the modern marriage. And just because you're married doesn't mean you have to like put all your money in the same pot and then get upset how your partner is spending it or not. You can separate your finances and still be in love. As a matter of fact, you might be more in love because you're not arguing about that fundamental relationship with resources. And then you have a common pot. You say, well, okay, there's certain things that we spend money on as a couple, like the house and the garbage and the sewer and the telephone and stuff like that and the kids. So you both put money into the common pot, but you have your own money. So there's so many ways that you can work on relationships in this, with regards to money. And I would say, I mean, not to tout the book, but I would say that the Programming Your Money, Your Life is extremely helpful because it's very concrete, step by step. And so you can actually see what's going on. It's not like an argument about values and morals and right and wrong. We still have time. Yes?
What about if one person makes more money than the other person in the household? How do you reconcile that in your relationship? I mean, aside from going to marriage counseling, you know, is there some sort of rule of thumb that you generally use, or?
Well, some people, no, there is no rule of thumb. I mean, really.
Give the difference to me.
You know, I mean, it be that you put the difference in savings so that, you know, when the person who's making more money actually loses their job and is making less money, you know, there's a pot of money for the two of you to survive. I don't know. There's probably a lot of strategies for that. But, I mean, that's an investigation of what money means. That's a question of your money personality and money myths. Does it mean that the person who's making more money is better? Does it mean that the person who's making less money should be in service to the person who's making more money? You make dinner, I make more money. But it gives you an opportunity to work through those things. So, and if you need a counselor to help you out, and if actually it's, you know, investing your life energy in a counselor is actually getting where you want to go, then no shame, no blame. That's not a bad way to do it. It's good that you even know that that's an issue. You know, some people won't recognize that that's an issue. And now it's even harder. It used to be that the wife stayed home and the guy made the money, and so it was sort of that sexist gender thing. But now a lot of times women are making more money than the men, and now what? Now what? So anyway, just write me.
Maybe 2 more questions, Vicki, and then we'll start.
2 more questions, and then we're going to stop. Yes?
Earlier you were talking about the difference in the consumerism of America and Bhutan. And here, LaDonna Harris, for the culture that was here prior to everybody else in the room coming here, was based on the 4 values. And the very first one was relationship. Second, responsibility, reciprocity, and redistribution. And it seems like we've broken into not only just singular units, but one unit that you don't have that. So if you were to come here and I were to give you some money for your travels in this area, they would call that in Lusutsi, which is the native language of here, tole. And it doesn't mean that I'm paying you. It means that I'm taking my life force and I'm giving my life force to you so that you may live. That's where the relationship and the reciprocity comes in, and then there are high class and low class people where you have responsibilities. You don't have a right to anything. You have a responsibility to everyone. So if you have a gift, even for singing, that gift was given to you to hold on behalf of the entire community. So you don't have, you accept what you have as a responsibility. So it's Tolle, I'm using my life force so that you might live. Because you're part of the community, and what I give to you will allow somebody else to live.
Exactly. Well, that's a healthy relationship with money and material stuff. I mean, that's what you just described health. Right. And we have a society that is steeped in ilth.
But the problem is when the immigrants in this room, I mean, everybody who wasn't
here before, right?
Here, run into this other culture and what happens to them.
Exactly.
So next month is a guy that's using psychology from California, talking about psychology of our economy. And these people are using a 10,000-year-old psychology before the word was invented, knowing about how you prevent war and keep everybody healthy. And it was supplanted by Sigmund Freud's psychology in study that doesn't work.
Which I would say comes out of the Renaissance. This and you know well, this is something else. I mean, I wrote a whole book about this that didn't get published, and it was on rethinking freedom in a world with limits. That in my analysis, you know, I've been doing this work for quite a while, what I would always run up against, if this is a free country, I can do whatever I want. It's my money, it's my house, I can do whatever I want. That is sort of the cynical, that's what freedom in this country has become, but we can't have that ideology of freedom in a world with limits, you know, material limits in terms of resources. But there's also the natural limits of what you say reciprocity. There's a limit of what you can do to a fellow human being to break the bonds of reciprocity. You know, and it's not just there's a limit to what you can do before he punches you in the nose. There's a limit to what you can do in breaking these bonds, because that's the natural integrity of life. So I thought about it, and I thought, you know, freedom in this country has come to be a degraded word. You know, it's about, you know, entitlement, hedonism, and licentiousness, and, you know, it's just, and we've gotten into a condition of what I call hyper-freedom. And one of the hyper-freedoms is hyper-individualism. You know, individualism the individual was distinguished by the Greeks. You know, the Greeks thought about the evolution of the individual. And that was a great notion in terms of breaking out of a sort of maybe a repressive, you know, like nobody can evolve because the society keeps you down. Or this idea of John Stuart Mill was talking about individual freedom, because that was coming out of Victorian society that was so repressive that the individual needed a little space to exist, but it's gotten out of hand. So, I mean, your money, your life is actually, it's an interesting thing, because it actually is supporting the individual and transforming the individual's relationship with money. But I don't say that is, I think it's a step towards a healthy relationship with money, but it's not a healthy society. You know, that we need to reweave the web of community. We need to rekindle our sense of responsibility to and for one another. You know, that what you're talking about the people with more supporting the people with less. Ruth Benedict, who's an anthropologist, studied societies that seem to be particularly healthy. She called them high synergy societies, where the actions of the individual for the individual good automatically created the social good. The actions for the social good automatically created individual good. That it was a healthy society. It was healthy for people in it. And she called it a high synergy society, so the whole system's working. And she said those societies are constantly bleeding wealth off the top and contributing it at the bottom. In the Lakota society, you know, they have the giveaway. It's like, you want to celebrate a marriage, you want to, celebrate that you prayed to the gods that your son would survive, and your son survived. You give away. The person who gives away the most is the person who is most respected. So material goods are always cycling through the society, and this horrible split between the rich and the poor, those with and without, that horrible split is never allowed to persist because they knew it was going to break apart society. So what, sort of like you've gotten around to like the secret little hidden agenda in this work really is sort of the healing of our souls, the healing of our societies, our relationships, and our world. That we need this transformed relationship with money and material stuff. We really need to think about it. And hopefully, it's like if we, I have actually, I've studied with a Lakota elder, and so it's, I'm steeped in some of those practices, but in order to communicate a perspective about money that's whole and complete and fair and responsible, I don't choose to use that language. I choose to use the language that I'm using so that, hyper-individualistic Americans can get it, So, but I thank you for that comment, and I think that probably needs to be the last one. And thank you so much for your attention. Yeah. And I'll be signing books. Oh, okay. Just one other thing. I was supposed to do this in the beginning. There's a website, yourmoneyoryourlife.info, I-N-F-O. Low-class domain, but it was all that was left. Because org.net and com were all taken. So yourmoneyoryourlife.info is where I'm blogging, where you can be in touch with me and my co-author Monique Tilford, where we're going to start a newsletter, we're going to start study groups. That's like, you can come there. There's lots of resources stocked up in there. There's going to be more. And I'm going to sign books. If you buy them, I'll be up here.